Well, hey guys, let's just jump right into it. I was not planning on making this video. I wasn't planning on talking about this. I had no plans to even do much with this for a little while. And we'll get into why that is, because you would think I would be all over this. But things kind of have developed. So if you've seen the title, you know what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be, surprise, surprise, Shawn Bolz, Kris Vallotton, Bethel stuff. So I just want to kind of take time to go over couple things. First being what was said, what happened, who is it credible? That's one of the big things. Like, is this actually a credible thing? Is this real? Next being what does this mean as far as Bethel goes and the prophetic movement? And last, like, you know, why not talk about this more sooner or than later? So for those you don't know, there's a YouTube channel called Minor Prophets. Been following them quite a bit lately. Newer channel, newer podcast. Cool guys. Don't agree with them theologically and a lot of stuff, but they have been very honest in their critiques on the charismatic church and the charismatic movement, which I can appreciate. Seem like great guys. Would love to talk sometime. They recently put out a video, kind of blew up. It's already got, I think last time I looked at it this morning, has like almost 10,000 views in one day. Pretty big for their channel. And the main thing being about the topic is everybody knows and nobody's talking about, like, kind of the secret of Shawn Bolz. And they have these screenshots from text messages from Kris Vallotton to someone close to Shawn. I'm going to say right away, I know who this person is, and I've talked with them. So I guess I'll get this part out first. I was going to talk about this and make a video on this, but after talking with the source, I thought it'd be better to have someone else break this, mainly because there's a lot more to it than just this. And plus my schedule's crazy and I have a lot going on, and I'm actually working on the new podcast series called Back to Bethel that I'm working on, which right after I get done filming this, I'm doing another interview for, so I'm excited about that. And this just was not on my radar to really do this. And then I didn't know if he's really sent these screenshots to many other people. I think he said he sent a couple other people, but it just seemed like I was going to let it come out in due time. But looks like Minor Prophets got a hold of them and they released it. So I have a lot to say about this, because it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating and it's really aggravating. And there's just a whole can of worms this opens up in the prophetic world and in the charismatic world. And not only that, but as someone who went to Bethel and is part of a lot of Bethel alumni pages, it's frustrating seeing some people's responses to this, because on some of the pages I'm on, the video got out and was posted. And to the moderator's credit, they left the critique of Shawn on the on the page for him. And the discussions that are being had on there are crazy, in my opinion, in some ways, but that's another topic. All right. So what is it? So let's just start with going through the text messages. I just want to do that right away, and then we'll discuss from there. So I have these pulled up. Have to forgive me. Make sure I have these pulled up properly, because I want to make it when I do this, they will actually come up sequentially, and I don't have to like keep opening, closing. There we go. Okay, that works. All right, so that got that queued up. Let me make sure this is all good, and we'll just jump right into this. All right. So this is a text message. I'm gonna read right through them. So again, I have these myself. That's another story. So blank, you're gonna have to understand that I have no authority over Shawn. This is Kris Vallotton. He doesn't work for me. He doesn't belong to my organization, and I flew down to meet with him, spent the entire day there, and flew back. I asked him to clean up his mess, and he has evidently decided not to do that. We have decided to not work with him, minister in our network anymore, and made it very clear that until he repents, you can't have any influence in anything that we do. If he worked for me, or was licensed through our organization, or even had a deeper connection to us, I would certainly be able to do more. If you feel like you need to sue him, then maybe that's what you should do. Again, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you that if you want to take this further, then I would recommend that you do something that lights a fire under him. I'm very sorry for your pain. I totally understand how you feel. It's just that we have no authority in his life. So I'm gonna stop on that message right there, and we'll go further more. That feels like a silly cop out in a lot of ways, because Bethel has platformed him multiple times He has taught at the school many times, and he has been kind of a household name at Bethel, at a lot of Bethel events and Bethel conferences. So I understand they don't have any legal authority, or maybe he's not an actual employee at Bethel, but it's no secret that he's been doing stuff at Bethel for years. He's been a staple at Bethel, and Bethel has used his prophetic ability as like a lighthouse to bring people to Bethel. As like, hey, this guy's associated with us. He comes and get prophecies over students. You should come over here and do stuff like him. So that's just frustrating. All right. At this point, we don't intend to make a public statement about Shawn. As you pointed out, a public statement wouldn't just hurt Shawn, but the entire prophetic ministry worldwide. Oh, I got so. There has been so much damage from prophetic movement, and I have talked about this ad nauseum. AGTV is going to be talking about this, but there has just been so much damage from prophetic movements, and I've said this once, I'll say it 1,000 times. It's accountability. Like, there is just zero accountability. And I know we've had all these scandals come up, from Bickle to Brown to, gosh, who knows? There's so many right now. The IHOP, the Morning Star, the Kris. They're everywhere, right? But I'm talking about prophetic accountability. So, like, I don't believe in modern day prophecy as they do. One of the things I've been telling people a lot is, like, you can call me a continuationist, but if you're going to tell me there's going to be prophecy for today, then there also has to be false prophecy for today. And you also have to tell me, how do you manage it? How do you hold it accountable? How do you identify it? And what's your process for it? And I've found that 9 times out of 10, when I say it to someone, they're all for the one side of it of like, hey, the prophecy's for today. It's awesome. And then I bring that up and like, well, that doesn't really happen. And there's like no accountability. And this is like the pinnacle of that evidence, where you have someone like Shawn. And Shawn, we have like from Jubilee Dawn to who knows who, have received words from Shawn and have made life-altering decisions. I personally know people who have received prophecies from Shawn Bolz. These pinpoint prophecies where he's calling out phone numbers or calling out addresses, or, calling out really weird specific things that feels like only God would know, right? And he calls them out, and these people make life-altering decisions on it. Like Jubilee has a whole thing on it. Like, if you haven't followed her, of getting married, and like these massive life decisions are made on these prophetic words. And now it's coming to light, and it's evident that it's a scam, that he was pulling information off of Facebook, that he's pulling information off of event pages, that these aren't real words from God, but he is blaspheming the name of God, saying, God told me this, or God's calling you out, and then you are supposed to go do X, Y, and Z. Like, that is just playing with people's lives. Like, that is just like, all I picture is like the puppet with the strings, like the puppet master thing. And you're just telling people where to go and what to do and what God said. Now, granted, obviously the discerning cop out is, well, you're supposed to take the word and weigh it and see if it's right. You're supposed to see if this word is for you, or you're supposed to pray about it and see if that's the right word. And let me tell you why I hate that response, because especially for vulnerable young adults and young people that are going to these really hyper emotional, charismatic movements, you're bringing them into a situation where you're telling them you're the authority on the prophetic, you're the authority on how to do this right and safely, and you're bringing people in that do it right. So we're starting on that premise. So they are now looking to you as an authority, as the person to help them find and see good examples of prophetic ministry. And then this person comes in and calls out their phone number, their street address, their great grandfather's name. Like, they pull out this crazy information, and then you're supposed to tell the person, well, that could be a false word. It could be a wrong word. So if they could pray about it, discern if that word's correct. I mean, in what world is a person who just had in a stadium of like 10,000 people had their phone number supposedly given to a man of God to call out and respond to? Like, no one's going to discern that. Like, to say, oh, well, I see a lot of victim blaming with Jubilee, and it frustrates me so much, where they're like, well, she should have known better. She should have prayed and weighed the word more. Maybe she didn't understand or hear it correctly. No, she was in an environment where she was told this guy is a solid prophet, hears from God, and the house that she was under, the leadership she was under, knew that he was doing things wrong. They knew that he was hurting people. They knew that he was lying, and they are more concerned about the prophetic ministry worldwide than they are about accountability in the lives of their students. Oh, it drives me nuts. It just shows that this is a vanity thing, that this is not a move of God. If you are more worried about how it looks and how people are going to take it than actual biblical accountability. I don't know what else to say to that. Like, it frustrates me so much. And there's so many people that have been hurt by this. Me included. I've had my own run-ins with it. That was years ago. Thankfully, mine was little stuff. But when you act on a prophetic word, you do something, and then it said, oh, hey, you just didn't discern it right. Oh, hey, you didn't pray enough about it. You should have waited more. What are you talking about? This is Shawn Bolz. This is like the head honcho. This is like the guy who everyone knows. Moving on. So I noticed that Shawn doesn't do words of knowledge anymore. I also think that he lost his house. At least that's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but it seems like it. I have no relationship with him anymore. I don't want one. I told him that he needs to clean up his mess before he has a relationship with any of our people. I've also told our entire team that they are not to minister with Shawn or have him in any of their ministries. I've also had a conversation with Bethel Music Leadership team and told him about Shawn's situation. They have agreed to ban him from their ministry. I heard that Shawn's really isn't getting invited anywhere. I think he's trying to survive by having people on his podcast. Several people have called me about being on his podcast, and I've told them that what I know. Whenever I see someone on his podcast that I know, I text them and let them know what's going on. So I'm not doing nothing. So that's him saying, like, I'm doing something. So what's frustrating here is he just said that he's telling people, leadership, hey, stay away from this guy. Hey, watch out for this guy. Hey, don't associate with this guy. But he's not telling students. And if I was alumnus at Bethel, if I was someone like currently at Bethel or someone who recently was at Bethel and knew and found out that when Shawn came, this was happening, and the leadership didn't jump on stage and be like, guys, we messed up. Like, if you got prophetic words from this guy, like if this guy gave you a prophetic word about going to Zimbabwe or joining Heidi Baker and missionaries, or he told you to, after Bethel to go start a video game industry, or he told you to go open up an ice cream shop. Like, if you got any prophetic word from Shawn during your time here, you need to really consider it and see if it's from the Lord. Or we're going to say, maybe as Kris would say, flush it down the toilet, right? Like that if I were in a leadership position and I had this happen, that would be like my immediate thing. It's like, we got to tell people they can't be making life decisions off this guy. We just found out that some crazy things are going down, but also that he has been lying about this and that he actually has been hearing from God directly, that he's been pulling things off the internet. But they don't, because they're more concerned about the prophetic movement worldwide. They're more concerned, so they want to reap the benefits. They want to reap the faith and the trust that people have in the prophetic movement, but not hold the accountability and properly take a hit on when things go wrong. And this goes back to what my frustration is with the modern prophetic movement. It is so focused on good. This is awesome. This is awesome. That's a great word. Oh, that resonates with me. That's a great word from God. Thank you so much. That's really encouraging. And there's no accountability on the highest pinnacle level of this. Like, this should be blasted. And this is one of the reasons I'm making this video. It's like, this needs to be understood. Bethel had information that this man was lying to people and prophesying falsely. And they were more concerned about the vanity of how it looks on the prophetic movement than even trying to hold integrity within their own prophetic movement. So they just lost all the integrity. Like, okay, we have also talked to his board individually and together, which it's public information. I'm trying to remember who it was on the board, but the board was basically him, his wife, and like two other people. So talking to the board, not really a big move. They asked him to pull out of ministry. At this point, they don't. Let's see. At this point, they don't want to do that, which I think is a major mistake. But they have official authority to remove him. I honestly don't understand why they don't call Danny Why they don't. Danny laid out all them facts and evidence. So Danny is Danny Silk. He's kind of he was the family kind of relation pastor at Bethel for a long time. He's the one who's perpetuated the culture of honor. He wrote the book on it, which allows stuff like this to breed. So I've talked to Shawn, Ed Silvaso, John Arnott, the bakers about Shawn. They have all canceled from their conferences. Ed Silvaso was doing a major event with Shawn in California, and he canceled them. My take is that God is going to deal with him, and I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. So what's even more frustrating here is now we know it's not just Bethel. We know that the entire group, the whole New Apostolic Reformation, whatever you want to call it, the global legacy group, we got Shawn, John and Carol Arnott, the bakers, they all knew about this. They all know this was happening. And none of them have done any kind of action of mass accountability of saying, hey, listen, we've found this out about Shawn. If you have made life-altering decisions, I keep going back to that, but it's so true. Like, he was given some pretty big words, like words of like, you're supposed to go start an orphanage out in Ukraine, and you're some of these words he was giving were like big words, like not just, hey, God loves you. Like, these were big life-altering words. And if people that trust you are making life-altering decisions off this guy who's a fake, he's a fraud, and I hate to say that, but this is what it is, and has a lot more going on too that hasn't even hit the surface. You would think that they would want to say something about that. They would want to make sure everyone knows that, like, these prophetic words probably aren't the best. But the reason why why Kris, why Bill, why No Jesus Culture, why Shawn, why the Arnotts, why the bakers, why anyone that's had this guy, the reason why no one is going to say, hey, watch out, there was a big prophetic word that you may have gotten that could totally be false, goes back to that very first thing that Kris said in the first message, the damage it would do worldwide to the prophetic movement. Why is that such a bad thing? Why not have accountability? Why not be willing to say, we messed up? Why not be able to say, hey, you may have gotten a word and changed your life on this. We're going to recommend you don't do that. But they don't, because again, they're more concerned about the way this looks, about the vanity of being able to have these really awesome, amazing, accurate prophetic words, rather than suffering the repercussions of potentially being a false prophet. Which I think is just sad. We no longer have a contract with TBN. I haven't seen Matt Crouch in over a year, but I'm not going to take the role of going from ministry to ministry. Here we go. I'm not going to take the role of going from ministry to ministry and telling them that Shawn was giving bad prophetic words. I don't have time to do that. I have no desire to call around every time I see Shawn new platform. I've told many leaders in our network about Shawn's dishonest prophetic ministry. Most of them have canceled him. Others have called me and asked me what I think. And I told them about Shawn's antics. So I understand his response in saying he doesn't think it's his responsibility to go from person to person. But at the very least, when you have a YouTube channel or multiple YouTube channels with millions of followers, you have a massive newsletter, you have a network of alumni, you have social media platforms from Facebook to Instagram. I don't know if Bethel's a TikTok, but you have all these platforms. Why not just do that? That would be more effective than anything. Why not just do this? But hey, we found out that Shawn may have been giving false words because he was sourcing them from social media. Like that, I keep going back to this, but it's like, why not do that? Like, what damage could come onto you that wouldn't be greater than now this? This is way worse. Having to have a third party like myself or the minor prophets come out and be like, hey, why aren't we holding this accountable? Hey, why aren't we doing something about this? This is far worse. I actually would have had so much respect for Bethel if they would have made them blast out a message and made a huge announcement saying, hey, Shawn Bolz was prophesying falsely. He was not actually hearing from God. We don't recommend his schools. We don't recommend, and if you got a prophetic word from him, we recommend that you probably just not act on that. Like, because we don't know if it was from God or from him at this point. We can't verify that 100%. There's no way we can know. So we can't say that God was speaking to him. Like, if they would have made a big announcement like that, Oh my gosh. And maybe I'm eating my words. Maybe they already have. I just don't know it. I follow them pretty closely. I haven't seen anything about this, so I doubt they have. So I didn't realize that Shawn's books were still in our bookstore. So they were, selling his books. I will have them taken out of the store and off our site. Great. I did have a conversation with him about 4 months ago and told him that if he wasn't to ask any of our team to be on his podcast, I told him that he needs to clean up his mess before he has a relationship with any, by when Shawn ministered here, we had no idea that he was abusing the prophetic ministry. If we had known, we wouldn't have had Shawn here. Okay. So when Shawn ministered here, we had no idea that he was abusing the prophetic ministry. If we had known, we wouldn't have had Shawn here. But you know now. And you're not telling people. Because going back to this, just hurt Shawn, but the entire prophetic ministry worldwide. Do you not think, Kris, that this is more damaging to the prophetic ministry worldwide than you just coming out in front of this? I would argue this is far more damaging to the prophetic ministry worldwide. That you have to have commentators and people like me and skeptics and who else, God knows, blast this everywhere. So I don't want to go too long on this. I have another interview I'm doing after this. My thoughts in closing. Bethel messed up big here. They should have been out in front of this in every way possible. This should have been, like, in my opinion, a blitz campaign, like a social media blitz campaign, where they repent, where they tell people the dangers of acting on these prophetic words, of making life decisions on these, in the name of trying to hold integrity in prophetic ministries, if they think it's a thing that should still be happening. But now there is a scarlet letter on the prophetic ministry and leadership in the prophetic ministry, not just Bethel, but from the Bakers to the Arnotts to Shawn to who else knows, maybe IHOP, Morning Star, which I wouldn't doubt they talked. There is now this scarlet letter in a sense of, we will never know if any prophetic leadership or if any prophetic leaders or voices in their movements have already been caught in some sort of scandal, have already been caught in some sort of lie or manipulating prophecies or manipulating how they're getting words, and then they didn't act on it. Like, we'll never know. Like, and we'll never be able to trust the fact that maybe that they'll come out in front of it, because they just said it's not his job to do this, and it's going to hurt the entire prophetic ministry world. They don't want to do that. So from this point forward, any prophetic voice that comes out of any of these houses, the Toronto Airport Blessing, Shawn's church, I forget the name of his church, the Bakers, any of these ministries that knew about this and were more concerned about damaging the prophetic ministry worldwide than they were about actually coming in front and holding people accountable, are now have this side eye for the rest of their lives, where people are like, well, did that guy mess up? Did he not? We don't know if he'll even talk about it if he did. It's bad. And there's a lot more. There's more than just this. And I can't talk about that. That's going to be for another time. I'll let the John Doe of this text message thread be the one to talk about that, and he'll do it in his time, but there's more. All right, be blessed, guys. I will see you in the interviews to come.